1 week in the middle of the summer, a giant eye appears in the sky over the city. At the end of 7 days, it disappears as suddenly as it had originally materialized. The Eye in the Sky Project. Episode 3.
Go on.
Lay back.
Relax.
It's all true.
U.S. intelligence officials increasingly fear that the next terror attack on the United States will be carried out by white Americans or Europeans.
London's 10,000 security cameras don't reduce crime. A comparison of the number of cameras in each London borough with the proportion of crime solved there found that police are no more likely to catch offenders in areas with hundreds of cameras than in those with hardly any.
Tom Brady was injured, his knee done for the entire season, and the staggering lack of depth at the quarterback spot for this team was exposed for the betting world to see.
American TV is owned by Pepsi and by Coke.
You're a dumbass for even coming over here and telling me that.
What? We're riding bikes.
Man, I had to drop Tom Brady in like 3 of my leagues. Who am I going to pick up?
You've been on the computer forever.
My ass is sitting here.
Dude, it's like sunny and shit.
Man, just go.
Don't make me drag your ass.
No, man, I'm just reading.
Get off the computer.
Yeah?
Get off the computer. You got 30 seconds.
Bend over now. Put your head back. A little further. A little wider. You can open it up more than that. Come on. Stretch it.
As another minor historical and perhaps not coincidental note, the same plane that was leased by a CIA front company was later shot down by Sandinista 12.7mm machine gun fire while airdropping supplies to Contra forces in Nicaraguan airspace.
Believe in the lie of the big eyeball in the sky.
Why does the Easter Bunny hide his eggs?
I don't know.
So people don't know he's screwing a chicken.
It's when you don't hear the bats, that's when the bats are coming.
'Cause I'm the Slim Shady. Yes, I'm the real Shady. All you other Slim Shadys are just imitating.
BAM! And Booth just shot his ass. Lincoln, right in the head, jumped out of the box and landed on the stage. Broke his leg.
Symptoms usually appear between 1 and 3 weeks after exposure, but may not emerge until much later. Chlamydia is known as the silent disease, as in many people it produces no symptoms.
What the fuck, man? Get that fucking gun away from my head!
Get off the computer.
I'm not playing, man. Put that thing up.
We're going outside.
Fuck you! Put it down!
Now!
Fuck! Alright! I'm going!
I don't think we should sit here and take any more time for our children, because they will come here and take our children.
Jim Jones. Jim Jones.
I know you're not a runner.
Your life is precious to me.
I have waited.
Jim Jones. Jim Jones.
Sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
Friend request. Friend request. Update status.
Watch what you're saying. Watch what you do. Best lay back and watch the wide screen. Believe in all of it's true.
I'm ready. You're ready. I'm ready.
If you have a body that has been crippled, suddenly you have a body that can rest. You never feel as good as how that feels.
Too high to get over. Too low to get under. Start in the middle. Pain is thunder. Yeehaw!
What now? Put that fucking gun down.
Just relax.
You pulled a gun on me.
You wouldn't get up.
And?
I want to show you something.
Okay? You didn't have to pull a gun.
This is it.
What?
This.
What?
It's a beautiful day.
Believe. Believe. Believe.
Believe in the lie. Believe in the lie.
of the big eyeball in the sky.
It all started out with just a conversation of 12-year-olds, aka me, Pat Hutchinson, Michael Regis, aka Crazy Mike, and John Newhouse. All our parents were freaking out, locking doors, getting water, stocking up on food. CNN was non-stop with it all.
We interrupt this interruption of your regularly scheduled program with an urgent update of the invading pupil which appeared on the horizon 2 afternoons ago.
And Mr. Saul Pollenberg, in your professional optometrist opinion, you think it might be possible that it could see through walls, shoot laser beams?
Which, of course, had not happened yet.
It's the Lord's will! The iris will be the death of us all!
Crazy Mike's mom, who, in looking at her unkempt hair and wide eyes, you can see where the crazy comes from, turns to my dad.
I knew we should have built that shelter.
Mr. Newhouse was boarding up windows when he said to John, This is why I voted for McCain. With that Osama, whatever his name is, God help us all. John was all wide-eyed himself. That look, still believing what his father had to say, as if voting for change meant voting for an overbearing eye, which really hadn't done anything yet. So nothing here, other than the sky's appearance, had really changed, or ever had in Somersville, New Jersey. It was Friday night by this point, and all of us had gathered in the basement to escape our parents' hysteria and the heat rising by the second. We had found an old ham radio. The box read, "Science is alive," in giant red letters. Crazy Mike was making fun of it, having dug it out with his sweaty palms from a chest overloaded with old crap I'd outgrown years ago. We should set it up, broadcast our own news, the truth of Creeper Peeper up there. It wasn't a half-bad idea, or better than most of Crazy Mike's ideas, and it didn't help that we were full of Domino's pizza and rum and cokes we'd made from raiding Dad's liquor cabinet, which to any onlooker in the sky or in the house looked like a Diet Coke. What's the real news? The truth? John piped up. Ask Pat! Ask him about Blake! An uneasiness even then settled in my stomach. Too much rum, I tried to convince myself. What about my brother? Well, what happened to him? What do you mean? It's freaky! It was true. About the time the report started, Blake, my 18-year-old ape of a brother, had a strange accident. All I know is he came home with an eye patch on his eye. Apparently, he had been in a swimming accident, is what my parents said. After going to the beach that afternoon with some of his ape-like 18-year-old friends. He swam too deep. My mother passed on what the doctor said, stuttering over some medical term she couldn't pronounce. A vessel popped. It sounds serious, but with time it should get better. It was at that moment, that very afternoon it happened. Old Lady Henderson, who was out watering her lawn, started screaming like a withered fay ray. The sky! It's watching me! People had gathered, staring up. There was that eye, right there, looking down, moving all around wildly, as if to take it all in. A little horrifying, surreal in some strange way. Oddly enough, looking comfortable, as if it belonged there. The bright blue of the eye almost merged with the sky. It was the hard black center of seeing that penetrated you,
and you couldn't help but feel that it knew your very thoughts. It was around that time that my brother, with a sort of smug air about him, started saying the strangest things under his breath. Saying things, knowing things that no one else did. He was convinced that Crazy Mike's old man was having an affair with his teacher and could even say what kind of underwear she wore. Secrets of the town. Who had lied or stolen or gossiped. Odd things. But it wasn't until Crazy Mike blurted out what he clearly suspected that following night in the basement that it was becoming clear. Was it possible? Could my brother's misfortune have gained sight with his eye in a whole new way? Perhaps he just blinked and there was that one part of him above everything else. Stranger things have happened in history. Frogs from the sky, we learned about that in school even. And it was always at a time of crisis that such change begins. But that was comic book. Imaginary stuff, wasn't it? By this time the radio was built, and we tried it without success. Drunk and belching, the other boys didn't care anymore. Besides, their parents had come over to whisk them away. Apparently, the eye had closed. Sleeping. So they felt all right, squeaking past their boarded-up doors to 65 Del Balsal Boulevard. I realized Blake was asleep himself. Upstairs. I stayed alone in the basement. My hands, nervous, still fiddling with the radio wires. Blake and I never really gotten along. We had pretended to, but there was something always underneath, like a distance between us. There was something that even then, in my 12-year-old body, I didn't trust. Something primal and strange about him, sulky and weird. So the fact that Blake told me anything over the past few days, as he rarely spoke, other than muttering to himself, made me think he had changed. He even described that afternoon to me, this one blue eye shining, even in the dim hallway between our rooms. As he spoke of the accident, he couldn't describe why, but he dove deep into the water that day, so far down that the world was a start of purple to him. His breath stopped, and he thought he had died, but by the time he got pulled out, he was waking up to blurry visions of friends on the beach, blood running down one side of his face. And then he said the oddest thing. Have you ever really thought that the best revenge is seeing everyone's flaws and faults, knowing they are no better than you? Not at all. But you can know who's on your side and not, and you can do whatever you want about it. Said with a dark eloquence now I'd never heard, and a righteousness that seemed deeper than anything I sensed before. I jumped. There in the basement, sweating so much now, in the hot summer air, the radio came alive, buzzing. It worked. And I was sure by now, sure my words could come easy to tell everyone that... He woke me up. It was Blake behind me. And it wasn't until the air was leaving my body, it wasn't until I was going down deep purple, that I could peer up behind his bandage and see the darkness. Just a void where his eye had been. A dark, black, hard circle penetrating into me. Hearing just a whisper from my own throat. Brother.
Footsteps moving neither for nor against the night breeze, falling in line for the lack of a particular place to go. Everywhere is away from the bed that won't provide the protection of sleep. In my dreams I would imagine, the sun going down at the end of the day, in this neighborhood blanketed with a gently illuminated night. But the dark this week has a milky glow. Moonlight as if our neighborhood had its own personal moon. And if that personal moon had been stuck in the stomach of a cow, and the cow's stomach had been sliced open with the earth looking up at it, and if that earth was being looked back at by some disgusting, peering, disembodied organ, or something like that. Either way, it's disagreeable to be stared at all the time. Don't you think so, jogger passing me by on the corner of the park?
Huh?
What do you think of the moon?
The moon?
This may be a trick question.
It's full, isn't it?
And with that, the jogger is on and away. As am I. Again with the breeze and the sad certainty that I am the only one aware of being watched. A full moon? Yes. With an enormous iris, humongous pupil, an ocean of spoiled milky white. If you feel so protected, why are you out running so late at night and not at home with your dreams? A question for only the jogger, but the whole neighborhood, along with several dogs, answers me out their windows, their ignorance filling up my ears. And then, all the way up there, the eye in the sky, it blinks. And everything, not just everyone, just stops breathing. For as long as the way it is now, wasn't always. Just last week, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. And then all at once, when the eye is open, it all starts back up again. The protest of the ignorance, the dogs, the night, like a massive machine lurching back to life. And you have to hold on to your hat when it does, or more usefully, something firmly attached to the ground. And I am on my own path again, to nowhere in particular, as urgently as possible, past buildings and trees, dip, 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 past the eye in the sky peeking through, to nowhere in particular. That may as well be this noisy bar I found myself in. Inside there are still windows, and through the windows, there's the eye, suddenly remorseful, suddenly seeming like it wants to rain remorse and be in here too. And as I smile because I know I am the only one who can bring the eye inside with me, the bartender's voice bubbles up from the den.
What can I get you?
What do you think of the moon?
What's that?
It's like one of those things you have in the front of your face, but it's really extremely large and located in the sky. I don't know whether it's blue or green or brown, but it's been there all week. Have you noticed it?
What's that?
I'll have a whiskey. The bartender pours. I drink. I fall backwards into somebody's table. I get pushed from person to person like a pinball machine out the back door. And I'm in the garden. I don't want to call it peace, but the clamor from before is flushed away by the wind and the rain. It's raining now. The lights in the rooms of the apartments above are out. On the fire escape, one floor up, there's a pint glass spilling over with dirty water. Oh, but next to it, there's someone. Her legs hanging off the edge, waving in the air. The rest of her is asleep. How nice it must be to be the beneficiary of sleep and its protection. My witness in the sky is bloodshot now. Its own fault, of course. Its attentiveness. Really, I haven't meant any harm to be so aware. And now it blinks. And now I regret. What could I have done this week? And as the eye opens and the night thunders back, I find the bottom rung of the fire escape to brace myself. And out of the returning night, a question bumbles up.
What do you think of the moon?
The sleeper on the fire escape could well be asking me her question in her sleep, her face having that sort of idea. But as I follow her question from her face to the sky, I find that the eye has blinked its way from my view. And I turn to tell the sleeper, I can't see it now.
I see it. All week, but...
Not now.
No. Now I can see it. But it can't see me.
And the sleeper looks closer, deeper in her sleep as I try to follow, slumping against the ground and feeling my face turned up against the sky without my eyes open. The night no longer noticing I am there.
The Eye in the Sky Project, a production of Audacity Theatre Lab. Episode 3. Written by Jason Tremblay, Crystal Skillman, and B. Walker Sampson. Performed by Oscar Contreras, Brian Pitts, Renee Kelly, John Flores, and Brad McEntire. Audio recording by John Flores. Original music produced by Chris Humphrey. The Eye in the Sky Project, Episode 3, is a registered trademark of Audacity Theatre Lab. All rights reserved. For more information about Eye in the Sky, please visit Audacity Theatre Lab at audacitytheatrelab.com.